Guys, the Oni is back with his biggest and best video yet. Today I have for you the most in-depth, in detail Knight guide for Chivalry 2. The goal for this one is to be the most in-depth that YouTube can possibly offer to you. I'm going to be talking about the Knight's classes and when best to use him, his perks in depth, how to use them, when to use them, and all the best times to use them. I'm going to talk about all of his weapons and when's the best times to use those, which ones are the best ones to use for any scenario, and which classes are as well. I'm going to be covering all grounds when it comes to playing as a knight. So shout out to all my Chivalry 2 chads, all my knights out there. You guys are my boys, you know what I'm saying? Knight is my favorite class. I've been maining him since launch of Chivalry 2. But the important thing that I need you to do for this guide is to give some constructive feedback in the comments to further educate and make the guide as accurate as possible with your own opinions, because to see things through many people's lens is a way better sight than through one's. So with that being said, you're a part of this guide too. Tell me your comments and opinions if you disagree with me anywhere or if you agree with me anywhere. Also, maybe throw me a subscribe and a like if I informed you today. If you think that I'm somehow helping you or the community in any shape or form. My passion is to create and to help people. So I am also going to make a Knight mindset video, basically running through a game as I play the Knight class, showing you what goes through my head as I play and what I do, what I focus on, while using all the tips of this video. But that video will be used in conjunction with this one. With that being said, the Knight is arguably the best class in the game. If you checked out my tier list I've made a couple weeks ago, the Knight subclasses score consistently higher than any other class in the game. The Knight is definitely the best class in the game. They're the frontliners. They're great at tanking, brute force, control. He's often heavily armed with big arms. He has great defense and great utility for the team. He has some of the best perks in the game and some of the best weapons as well. Actually, a lot of them. You can never go wrong with playing the Knight, whether he's a team player or you're trying to duel. The only drawback that I'd say about the Knight has is that he's a little clunkier than others because his slower stamina regen and he's not capable of like charged power attacks. But other than that, I'd say he outclasses most when it comes to mostly everything. The Knight has 3 subclasses. You got the Officer, you got the Guardian, and you got the Crusader. The Officer is one of the best subclasses in the entire game, tied for one of the best. He's a mixed frontliner that offers tons of power and speed, kind of like a balance in between damage and defense. He's also very flexible with his perk. It's definitely the best perk in the game. He's really best for all situations. He's best for everybody, whether you want to do damage, tank, and sustain, mix of both, literally everything. He's kind of like a blanket over anything. When in doubt, play the Officer. If you want to play S tier subclass, play the Officer. He's just the best. The second subclass of the Knight is the Guardian. The Guardian is the most hard defense leaning wall type subclass. He's basically like this unmoving, extremely durable behemoth. He sacrifices flexibility and range by getting more defense by using a heavy shield, which is super durable and offers a ton of tanking capability. He can also plant the banner, which is the second best perk in the game, to slowly heal and hold down and sustain a front line. So he's a great frontliner, super tanky, super durable. He's the tankiest subclass in the entire game. He's the most hard defense leaning class, best for those who want to be a wall. He shines best in the front line, in clashes, in drawn out standstills, that kind of deal. He's also a really great dueler just because he has the one hand plus the shield combination, and that also gives him the advantage against slower, clunkier two-handed weapons as well. The third and final subclass of the Knight is the Crusader. The Crusader is the DPS oriented tank slash frontliner Knight. He offers high damage with bone crushing power while maintaining good armor and frontlining, so he's home to really high DPS type weapons. His perk is also the Fire Pot, which is a pretty good perk. It allows for even more offensive and zoning potential. He can hold down chokes with it well. He can kill the Duke in the air very well. So he's the ultimate bruiser. He's best for those that want to be a bruiser, that want to have a lot of damage while still being able to tank. You want to do a lot of damage in the front line. You can also make some really great plays with the Fire Pot and hold down a bunch of people if you're really good. So if you're that kind of playmaker, he shines best in these chokes. When he's pressured by numerous people, he can teach them a lesson very well. So between those 3 subclasses, you have a lot of ground covered. You have the Crusader, which is a hard DPS oriented frontliner. tank, and on the hard left you got the Guardian, which is a very defense leaning wall, and in the middle you have the officer, which is a very well made mix of the two, offering a lot of damage, offering a lot of defense, sustain, and still maintaining being that frontliner that you need. The officer is best for all situations for anybody who wants to play. Like I said, he can do everything and he's one of the best in the game. So when in doubt, play him, or just being good in general, play him. If you want to do DPS, if you want to do a lot of damage, you want to hold down chokes well, you want to assert your dominance and hold back many, Crusader is very good. Or if you want to hold down a standstill very well, if you want to frontline, if you want to sustain, if you want to have a lot of durability, the Guardian may be best for you. I'm going to talk about the Knight's place in the subclass ecosystem of this game. Generally, when it comes to general stats and skills and that kind of stuff, the Knight actually falls short comparing to its DPS counterparts. That being the Officer's counterpart, the Raider, the Guardian's counterpart, the Man-at-Arms, and the Crusader's counterpart, the Devastator. All of their counterparts are generally much better than the Knight subclasses themselves. The Knight subclasses are still capable, even though falling short, still capable with their top tier perks and really good weapons. The Raider is generally much more capable of the Officer maintaining the top tier Trumpet perk while having the privilege of not having stamina penalties and being able to do charged power attacks, stuff that Officer can't do. As for the Guardian, the Man-at-Arms is a much better one-handed subclass. In fact, the Man-at-Arms is probably like top 2 or 3 when it comes to skill and general meta. The Man-at-Arms is generally cream of the crop, definitely S tier. He doesn't have any stamina penalty at all. He can both do charged power attacks along with the tackles. That's stuff that the Guardian can't do. He doesn't have any stamina penalty. And when it comes to the Crusader, the Devastator is far better than the Crusader when it comes to wanting to do DPS. The Devastator still maintains having the oil pop while having better damaging heavy arms than the Knight. He also can do his charged power attacks, which is crazy good and high DPS, and doesn't endure any stamina penalty from his attacks, whereas all Knights, they have much more stamina penalty than others. So the other subclasses are much better, but the Knights are still not bad. They're still pretty solid. They have really good, well-balanced weapons. They still maintain having those top tier perks, so they can still do very good. They just aren't maybe as capable. They're kind of like a turtle, where the others are kind of like the hare. The fact that they can't do any charged power attacks makes it very detrimental on their DPS, makes them slower. The stamina penalties, it's not good because your stamina bar is almost as critical as your health bar, because once that stamina goes away, you get disarmed and you get killed. And they still have those top tier perks, which is cool. That, and people say like that the Knight, oh, the Knight is tankier. Honestly, it doesn't. Honestly, this doesn't really benefit the Knight as much as you think it would in a world where a lot of weapons do bonus damage against Knights, and on average, usually duels take 3 or 4 hits, even with the Knight's tankiness. So you might be better off choosing the others, but you can still do pretty good with the Knight, like I said. Now let's talk about the weapons. I'm gonna go a lot more in depth on those. It's best to choose the best weapons for the best situations if you want to do really good. That will further help you do good in any situation that counts, because all weapons are different. Kind of be like a Swiss Army knife and find the best combination of the weapon and the perk for the current situation that you're going on. I'm going to go through each subclass and talk about their weapons within the subclasses, and then I'm going to rank them worst to best or best to worst. Then after that section, I'm going to start talking about the weapon rankings for every single scenario you could think of, like if you want to do good in frontlining, if you want to do good with range, if you want to do good against knights, against shields, dueling, that kind of stuff. I'm going to give you top 5s for all that kind of stuff between all 3 of the Knight subclasses. Starting with the Officer, his best weapon is the War Axe, hands down. That and the Longsword, but I think the War Axe is slightly better. The War Axe is a great frontlining weapon and by far one of the most meta weapons in the game, in my opinion. It has great damage and range and doesn't sacrifice speed for it either. His speed is actually not that bad. His combos are great. The combo speed. So with that, you can have brute crushing force without much sacrifice. He has great control and strength in the front line because of these stats. It's a top tier weapon. You can hold back many and have a strong impact and control with this weapon. It's very brutish and a lot of strength and impact. Definitely one of the best. Not far behind the War Axe is the Longsword. Actually, the Longsword, you can kind of tie it with the War Axe if you please, but I just think that the War Axe is ever so slightly better. But the Longsword is still a great weapon. It's very balanced, for sure, really good. Because of the balance, you can pretty much blanket it over any situation. You can can handle any situation with it. It's kind of like a Swiss Army knife. There's no intense drawbacks in any category. It just maybe doesn't have that much of a stronger controlling presence as the War Axe does. It's not as heavy. The damage is really good. The speed is great. The reach is great. You know, faster, stronger stabs. The reach is good. So it's a great mixed weapon for any situation. Very balanced, great weapon. The poleaxe comes next. It's not a bad weapon. It's pretty good. It's a pretty good frontliner. It has good range, and it has damage is pretty good. It's great against shield sides. It's a pretty good weapon. I think it's pretty solid. The only drawback I'd say is a little bit slow, but other than that, you can do pretty good with this weapon. The longsword's definitely faster. So is the War Axe, and they both have a better presence. But the poleaxe is really good against if you're against some long range people, you can match them in range with the poleaxe. Or if you're facing a lot of shields, the poleaxe is very well. The heavy mace comes last. I think it's pretty underwhelming compared to the officer's other weapons. For one, it's a blunt weapon, so it stops on contact. As a frontliner, it's going to be hard to deal with because you're fending off numerous in the front line. You need something that doesn't stop on contact, things with wide swings, so you're able to fend off many. And you can only do that with a heavy attack with the heavy mace, and obviously with the slow windup, that can compromise you a lot and get you in a lot of trouble. So the heavy mace is very underwhelming, and also the range is pretty bad. All the other weapons can outshine it very much so. The good things about the heavy mace is that it's faster because it stops on contact and it has faster combo times. It does a lot of damage towards knights, so it's not terrible, but I guess it's just really good situationally, honestly. If you're dealing with tons of knights, this could help you a lot. Or if you're dueling for the fast speed, I could advise it as well. So there you go. Those are the knights weapons ranked best to worst. Now you know which ones are better than others and when to use them in any situation. Use the War Axe and the longsword mostly if you want to do really good. If you're maybe dueling or want to whoop a knight's ass, if you're getting abused by knights, use the heavy mace. If you're abused by high range people or shields, use the poleaxe. Onto the Guardian. The Falchion and the Warhammer are the two really good weapons the Guardian has, but I'd say the Falchion is the best one by far. The damage is good, the speed is great. The critical thing is that it's not a blunt weapon like the Warhammer, so you can hold off numerous people. It doesn't stop on contact, so you can slash many people at once, and it's fast, so you're pretty flexible and fluent in the battlefield. You're doing solid in duels and 3v1s. The speed can make you pop many hits off. It's very reliable, solid. I would use it often with the Warhammer and use it over the Warhammer if you don't like blunt weapons, or if you're being abused by numerous. The Warhammer being the second best, or maybe even the best if you prefer it. It does top tier damage. It hits like a truck while still maintaining the speed of a one-handed weapon. It's a blunt, which is a drawback, but since it's a one-hand weapon, like I said, the speed makes up for it. You can get many hits off with that top tier damage. It is one of the best Knightbreakers in the game. You can melt knights very quickly with it, so you're going to do pretty good in the front line with that heavy shield. It's very good and reliable. Use it often. Falchion is a little bit more flexible and versatile though, because it's not a blunt weapon. One-handed spear isn't bad. It can't slash, but the range is pretty top tier. If you'd like to keep your distance and get a lot of free hits, it's there. But you know what they say about them spear people. It's for good reason too, honestly. Not much to say other than if you want to have top tier range and keep people back and get a lot of free hits and take advantage over a lot of people. But it's not as versatile. Like I said, it's not very good for slashing, and you have to always be stabbing. I would say that the axe is the worst weapon out of all the Guardian's weapons. It's outclassed and underwhelming over the others. Reach is not good. Speed is okay. Does okay damage. The other weapons he has do more range, more damage. They're faster, and you can do much better with it. That being said, use the Falchion all the time. Use the Warhammer all the time if you want to hit hard. Falchion if you want to be extremely fluent in the battlefield. Use the spear if you want some good range, and don't use the axe. And third, the Crusader. I personally think the battle axe and the Messer are his top two best weapons, with the battle axe being first, or the Messer if you prefer. Battle axe is great. It's a more high risk, high reward over the Messer. The damage for sure is probably like top 3 in the game. The range is short. I would say that it's slightly less flexible than the Messer just because of its shorter range, but if you're skilled enough, you can do insanely good with this weapon. Top tier damage is great. Eats through shields like nobody's business. You can do really good with that weapon. Messer is better than the battle axe in a lot of cases, just because of its range. Messer is also one of the best weapons in the game. The damage is great on slashes. It's fast, great range. You can do really good with it, and you can't go wrong with it. It's very flexible and it's very capable. Can handle a lot of situations. The slash is very strong, and the range is great, so you can just hit tons and pop off tons of really good hits. Also fast too. I put Executioner's Axe third. The damage is insane and the range, so it's a great frontliner. It's big and beastly. It's very solid. The only drawback is that it's slow, making it a clunkier weapon, but it's extremely high damage. I would say use it often in the front line, but the Messer is a lot more balanced and flexible because it's faster. Battle Axe does similar damage as the Executioner's Axe, but doesn't compromise tons of speed for it. So two-handed hammer I place at the bottom of the Crusader's arsenal. It's a little bit of an underwhelming weapon, unfortunately. The special damage is good. Everything else, I think it's the worst blunt weapon in the Knight's arsenal. Probably the worst two-handed weapon at that. It's slow. The damage is okay. It's outclassed by everything else in my opinion. Usually blunt weapons are justified because they can hit faster, even though they can only hit once, even though they stop on contact. But this one is still slow with that fact. So it's not a bad weapon. I just say that there's so much better in the Crusader's arsenal. So yeah, the Crusader's arsenal is not bad at all of them are really good. It's just like it depends on you and the scenario you're in. If you want a well-balanced, solid, top-tier damage weapon, the Messer's great. If you want something with more damage but still has great range, Executioner's Axe, although it sacrifices speed for it. The Battle Axe is better if you want to do even more damage while sacrificing a little bit of the range, if you can work around that. And the two-handed wet hammer is great if you want to use a blunt weapon. Now that we've gone over all of the weapons of each subclass, I'm going to speak about the best weapons for each scenario, starting with frontlining. The best frontlining weapons I'd say is the War Axe, hands down, along with the Falchion with the shield as a guardian. Next you got your Executioner's Axe, something like a Messer, and a pole axe as well will do you very good. But the War Axe is just an incredible frontlining weapon, as I said earlier. A very well-rounded heavy weapon here. You have the benefits of a heavy weapon without the drawbacks of the speed. Like I said, you get faster combo times, faster, stronger overheads, and the damage is top tier, along with bonus damage against knights and footmen. That kind of stuff is very helpful in the front line, you know, and it has great range. This is just a top tier weapon. Following with the Falchion and with the heavy shield combination, not only do you have that heavy shield to take a lot of hits in the front line, but the Falchion is the Guardian's best weapon for slashing and hitting many people in the front line, fending off many, as you become very fluent in the front line and very versatile and great. Stuff like the Executioner's Axe and the Messer will do you very good because of the range. You can fend off many. They have great slashing, very good wide range slashing, and any kind of weapon like that would help you as well. Following with the pole axe, like I said, the pole axe is a little bit underwhelming compared to a lot of the other knight's weapons due to it being slow, the damage not being all the way there, but the range is great to fend off a lot of those polemen in the front lines, and it's a great shield breaker, stuff you'll see a lot in the front line too. Speaking on defense, if you want to do great with defense, obviously playing the Guardian is your best bet because you have that heavy shield, increasing your durability and your defense. So any weapon doesn't matter with it really. Maybe the Falchion to fend off many. Like I said, the spear keeps people back much more. Following the Warhammer, the Warhammer's damage will help out a lot and break knights. And the axe, just because you still have the shield with it. And if you don't want to use a shield, maybe something like the War Axe or the Executioner's Axe, something very good to fend off many with good range, and that kind of stuff will help you in defending yourself. As for DPS, if you want to focus on doing damage, DPS, if you want to get kills, if you want to break and eat and kill humans and all that kind of good stuff, the Battle Axe is the best weapon hands down in the Knight's arsenal. Just does like top tier damage. The numbers are higher than pretty much any other weapon he has, and they eat through shields like nobody's business. The Messers are all around really good and popular as well. DPS weapon with its good range, good damage, fast strong slashes. You can't go wrong with it. The War Axe, another very meta weapon, great combo time, damage, reach. Executioner's Axe is very top tier damage as well, probably the second on this list when it comes to the numbers, and very good range. And the Warhammer, it also hits like a truck. You get incredible numbers with it, and you get the benefits of the speed of a one-hand weapon with the Warhammer. So all of these you're going to be doing incredible DPS with, and you're going to be kicking ass. As for breaking knights, if your goal is to deal with knights, if you're getting abused by too many knights, or the team has a lot of knights that you're dealing with, that you're in the front line a lot, you need to destroy these knights to get through, the Warhammer hands down is your best weapon. You have 50% plus damage against knights, along with just having a lot of damage in general. You get the benefits of a one-handed weapon speed with that. And if you want to melt a knight, the Warhammer is the best way. Following the heavy mace, because the heavy mace's combo times are pretty fast. You can hit a knight often, and plus it does bonus damage to knight, 50% to a knight, and the combo times are good. Battle Axes, I would put the Battle Axe next just because of its sheer high DPS. It does top tier damage along with doing extra extra to a knight. It's just crazy with the DPS. You'll be destroying anybody, not even knights, but anybody with the battle axe. The war axe is really good. Like I said, top tier damage. It does 25% extra to knights, faster, stronger overheads, faster combo times, just like the battle axe. And the executioner's axe, another one, does top tier damage along with extra to a knight, except it's a little slower. That's why I put it on the bottom. Now, if your goal is to be breaking shields, maybe you're getting abused a lot by a lot of man-at-arms, or you're getting flanked by man-at-arms a lot, or you're just in the front line and there's tons of guardians, you just need to get through shields, then it's good to switch to a Shieldbreaker type weapon. The best one being the battle axe. Not only does the battle axe does intense DPS, but it does bonus damage to shields, and you'll eat through shields very quickly with it. Highly recommended. Best one for shield breaking in the game. Second one for sure is the pole axe. It's another one that does bonus damage to shields, and the range is great. That'll do you well on the front line, and when you stab with it, those two are the only ones that do bonus damage to shields, but the other three I have here will also help out a lot, with the warhammer being another one. Like I said, it hits like a truck, does bonus damage to knights and footmen, very much so, the ones holding the actual shields, and that'll help you very much so. And because it's a blunt weapon and it's a one-handed weapon, you'll be able to hit pretty quickly. Same with the heavy mace. That goes with the heavy mace as well, because it's blunt and there's faster combo times. You'll be able to hit faster and faster and break that shield down quicker and quicker, just like the warhammer. It does bonus damage to the people holding it too. And at last I put the longsword. The longsword's stab DPS is pretty well. It's faster too, and that'll just help you melt that shield down quicker. Or really, honestly, you could switch the longsword with a lot of other weapons. As for dueling, maybe you're not in the front line, maybe you're off to the side in the back line, or you're just scattered. Your team is scattered. You're in a scattered phase of the game, and where you're doing these 1v1 duels a lot, and the dueling is becoming critical to you succeeding, then it's good to look at weapons that are great for dueling. Number one being the Falchion with the shield combination as the Guardian. The Falchion is the most fluent, versatile weapon that the Guardian has. As I say again, it's the one with the greatest slashing. It's pretty fast. It does great damage. Plus you have that shield. You can do really good in dueling with this one-handed weapon. Following the Warhammer. The Warhammer hits like a truck. It's fast, like I've said many times already. The longsword is an incredibly balanced weapon. It does great damage. It's fast. It's all around a great weapon, and it's a good dueling weapon as well. Spear with your shield as a Guardian is another great dueling, because you can get a lot of free hits off with that spear because of its top tier range, and you'll be able to abuse it a lot. Plus you'll have that heavy shield. And then 5 I put as the heavy mace. The heavy mace is a good dueling weapon because it's fast combo times. It's a blunt weapon. It has faster combo times, simply put, and it'll do you well in dueling because of how fast it can hit. It's important to keep all these kind of lists in mind, because you want to be like a Swiss Army knife. You're not going to be frontlining the entire game. Maybe you'll go off to the side and do a little bit of dueling, or maybe you need to switch to DPS, or maybe you're getting abused by shields a lot, that kind of stuff. The situation changes as you progress into the game, and you should further morph and change with that situation to stay ahead and stay the best you can be, the physically possible best you could be. In the beginning, where there's like a big frontline action and there's a lot of defense, I'm gonna run the war axe, and then later when things start to get scattered, I might switch into the Falchion with the shield, and then when we start getting aggressive, I could switch into a Messer, you know. And then say we get into a big clash at Fallmeyer, I'm definitely gonna go with the poleaxe, or I'm gonna go with Guardian and stuff like that. It's really good to keep these kind of lists in mind. They're very educating. The best weapons for each scenario, and I'm gonna go over that more as well as we go into the perks and switching your perk for the correct phase for the best possible time to use it, the prime time to use it, and that kind of stuff. So it's good to keep this kind of shit in mind. Now I'm gonna talk about the Knight's perks. The most critical thing to understand here is that you can switch your subclass without sacrificing your perk charge. If I play Guardian in the whole beginning of the game and I have my banner ready, I can switch to Crusader and have a full oil pot charged and ready to go, or a trumpet if I want to switch to officer. So that means you can change your perk to execute the best perk for the perfect time. And after reviewing some gameplay of mine, you get your perk once around every 3 minutes. They balance it like that on purpose, so you're able to do one perk per phase of the game or the map in the team objective objective map, and if the phase becomes really strung out, maybe usually 2 in the phase, I went through all the team objective maps and I reviewed all the phases, thought about what kind of perk between the 3 would be the best for that situation. Going over the 3 perks quickly for each subclass, the Trumpet is the best perk in the game, if you want me to be honest. It's on-demand healing for anybody around you, any which way you want. You provide a really good boost of healing for everybody around you, and you can instantly get like half a grand of points just on the spot, just by a good Trumpet. It's good for all situations. It's extremely helpful in any situation. So when in doubt, you can use it anywhere, and usually places where it's fluent, where you can't use the fire pot or the banner, use the Trumpet instead. As for the fire pot, it's really good only in choke points where a lot of the enemies crowded up, or against the Duke or Heir. It's an easy way to kill the Duke or Heir very quickly, or the prisoner, but usually everywhere else it's hard to pop off a good fire pot because everybody's so scattered. The banner, since it's stationary, you plant it down and you can't move it anymore. It has to be destroyed or stuff like that. The best situations to use them is at very long standstills, clashes, and stuff like that. Any kind of place where you and your teammates might be strung out in the same position, you can get a lot of points off the banner that way. That's the way you can juice it for the most points possible. I'm not going to go over all of these with you, but I'm going to throw in a couple of examples here. If you look at Lion Spire in the beginning where you push in the battering rams, the Trumpet is the best because you can't really put down a good banner or a good fire pot. The fire pots come in really well when you're trying to destroy those trebuchets and everybody's pushed close together in those trebuchets, and when somebody wants to light it up, they have to be stuck there. So you can throw a really good fire pot there. The banner's really good when you're in the clash. If you look at number 2, defend gates, that's where the big clash comes in. You can mooch a lot of points, you can juice a lot of points off of the banner. Fire pot's also great in places like the gate in Coxwell in the beginning. There's so many really good choke points for popping off really good fire pots, like going up the ladders to scale the wall, or when you're breaking down the gate on other side. If you're on the blue team, you stand on top of it and you could throw down again onto the gate and then they won't be able to destroy it. Or if you're on the red team, you can throw it up where they're picking up the boulders and such right above the gate. You can throw it up there and there's a ton of people there. You can get good chokes off and that'll hinder their process and try to stop you. That, and you can throw them at the ballistas as well to stop ballista fire on you if you're getting abused by it. If you're on the blue team, you can throw it on the ladders and they won't be able to come up. There's many great places for the fire pot there. So yeah, if you want, just pause this video and look at all this. These are good recommendations for having the best perk for the right situation. Say in Fallmire, you're at the gate towards the end before the Duke and you're playing officer. That's fine. You can build up your charge as the officer, and when the Duke comes, you can switch to Crusader to throw that fire pot down. That's what I mean when I say changing for the certain scenario or phase, picking the best perk. This, in the end of the day, will maximize your effectiveness and give you points up the wazoo if you pick the correct perk, and you can have a great impact in the game doing this. And say you switch, you can always switch back, so you're not forced to play one subclass if you don't want it. You can just use it to use the perk and then switch back to officer or something like that. So your place as the knight is to always fight in the front line. You are the face, you are the fighter. Where the clashes happen, you're in the front of it. When the objectives happen, you lead it. That's what you always need to do. Don't waste your time and go to the back line and try to ambush. Save that for the DPS people. You do best in the front line with your top tier perks, and your well balanced weapons will assist you with that very much so. So never frown on the knight, and be ever changing with the wind, as they say. Always be sure to use your plethora of weapons to your advantage, and your perks, change them up and make sure to always have fun. If you try to use the knight in places where frontlining doesn't really matter, that's when you can begin to struggle. Like I said, the man at arms could probably whoop the guardian's ass, etc, etc. Unless you're extremely skilled, you might be at an uphill battle. So make sure to always stay in the front line and focus on the objective as the knight. Otherwise, you're better off playing with somebody else. The knight is too good for you. You run out of stamina often with the knight, so you gotta make sure to pace yourself and regenerate. Stay back and regenerate, take a break. So you're gonna have to take it easy on the heavy attacks. In a world where there's tons of charged power attacks, your slow wind up power attack is not as good, so you may want to be careful with stuff like that. I'm actually going to come out with a video soon explaining the knight mindset to winning in the game, to show how I use all this video's information while actually playing in the game. With that being said, use all this information to your advantage. Give me a subscribe and a like. stick around because more Chivalry videos are on the way down the pipe. I'm going to use all this information in a Knight mindset video, basically running you through one of my games in the team objective map and explaining the mindset of the Knight and doing good with him. Give me your feedback if you agree or disagree. I always love to hear your feedback, and it would further make this video more accurate when it comes to playing the Knight. And I do appreciate if you were to support me. I worked very hard on this video and will work hard on the next ones as well, so stick around and thank you.